All right, what is going on? Welcome back to another Chris Reeve knife video. This is the Mandy. This belongs to Professor EDC, and it is just a tiny knife. There's no other way to really say it. Here it is next to a AA battery. We're going to jump right into some size comparison just because this is a really small knife. And I don't know that everybody understands that when they buy it. Now, this did come from the original owner up in Canada. He bought it and said it was just too tiny for him. He really, when I reached out to him, because Professor EDC asked me if I knew anybody that was selling one, and then I just happened to, a couple days later, I saw this posted. So I reached out to my friend up in Canada and said, hey, I know somebody that's looking for one. Don't hold it if you have a seller or a buyer, but let me check with Professor EDC and see if he's really interested. And the seller almost tried to talk me out of it. He said, look, it's very, very small. You need to make sure that Professor EDC understands that it's small. Yeah, it's small. even open, it is still shorter than a Sharpie. Okay, and we'll talk about some of the specs here in just a minute. But it's an unusual knife. It is crazy light. If you think this is crazy light, the VC Edge interface, you're going to be blown away by this titanium. I don't even know. Is this like a bolster lock? I'm not even sure exactly what kind of lock we're going to call this because it's got a scale. It's a frame lock with a scale. Maybe it's a bolster lock. I guess it's a liner lock. Yeah, it's a liner lock. What am I thinking? It's been a long day. It's a liner lock, just like this. It just happens to be, the scales happen to just be the wood. So yeah, it's a liner lock. What am I thinking? But all right, here's my thoughts on it. It's way too freaking small for me. It is a two-hander. There's no real easy way. I mean, I did open it with one hand, but that was awkward. Like, it's not going to really finger flick. You can give it some wrist and you can get it, but it's awkward. Even closing it for my bigger hands is awkward. So it's certainly not a knife for me. However, it might be for you. This could be really good for somebody with really small hands. A smaller woman, a teenager, if you will, something like that. This might work really well for. So let's dive into some of the specs. Closed, it's 3 9/16, just a hair over 3.5 inches. Overall is 6 1/4, 2.71 inch blade. It is crazy sharp. It is S45 VN. Blade thickness is 0.088. Behind the edge is 0.017 with a very nice hollow grind. No blade plate, no nothing. Solid lockup. Overall thickness is 0.407. This thing really does fit in a fifth pocket or your coin pocket or your watch pocket, that little pocket in your jeans. You'll know what I'm talking about, right? I think most people today's world call it a fifth pocket. A lot of people call it a coin pocket. You know, whatever. So it's actually a really good spot for that. This one has box elder as the scales, and it weighs in at 1.5 ounces. That's it. Full on titanium, S45, and some wood, and it's 1.5 ounces. You go here, and it's mostly carbon fiber. Yes, it's bigger. Has a titanium lock bar, and this is 1.6. this earlier version. They're lighter now. They're in the 1.4 and 1.5 range. But yeah, like it's crazy. That tells you how light this is, but also to me, it really speaks to how light this is with it being all titanium. Now, this box elder wood is awesome looking. Absolutely awesome. Now, this runs on washers. Something that is different that you may or may not know. Maybe everybody knows. I am not a super CRK expert, if you will. Again, I'm not really an expert at anything. I just happen to be a guy with a camera and a channel. Like, yeah, anyway. But they use a pivot bushing. So basically, you cannot over tighten the pivot. It's not going to affect the action at all. It's not going to affect the centering. Like, I think more companies need to figure that out and do that so that it doesn't matter how tight this is, you're only going to get it so tight because there's a bushing in there that is like, it's a spacer. Think of it as a back spacer or a barrel spacer that goes through the blade and the pivot just kind of jumps down on. It's kind of what the pivot is. Like, you can't over tighten it. You run that thing down, you make it tight, and you're good to go. I think more companies should do that. Titanium pocket clip. I think it's a cool knife. I would kind of like it if it was a full-size knife. The blade shape is really cool. It's got some fingerprints and stuff on it because I touched it, even though I cleaned it right before I filmed. But because the blade is so small and the knife is so light, you have to touch the blade to operate it. Okay? Very tiny, slight recurve almost on the bottom here. I think it's a great looking blade, a great looking knife. If this was, say, 3.5 inch blade, 3/4 of an inch bigger, maybe a 3.5, 3 3/4, 4 inch, 3.5 to 4 inch blade, and then the knife was, equally just enlarged, I think that'd be a winner for me. But I don't know. What do you guys think? I think it's cool, but it's just too tiny for me. One more size comparison here, and yeah, that's it. I don't have a Spyderco Delica here. I sent my Spyderco Delica down to Alex at the Watch and Cut channel because it needed some sharpening. So there you go. Kind of a quick down and dirty. I have done one other video of these a couple of years ago. That was my brother's. And back then, it just had more of a nail nick, not a hole all the way through the blade. So there have been changes and refinements over the years. But let me know what you think down below. Do you own one? And do you carry it? Let me know.